Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Art 196, Introduction to Designing Computer Graphics for the spring semester 2022. Today, I will be focusing on making your website ADA compliant. It typically is probably one of the last things that many designers think about with regard to their website, but it is extremely important. It is the law to make sure that your website is visible or it can be reached to anyone, especially those who are hearing impaired or seeing impaired. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you various ways of making your website compliant. One of the first things that you should do is make sure that you title your page. We've talked about that before. So I have here the finished file for the About page, and we have the file name, but I don't know that we have the title of the page itself. So let me go ahead and look in the code. Let's see if we can see if there is a title here. So it would be in the head of the document, not the header. Let me go back here. Let's go back up. And let's see real quick. I thought they would have done all of that. Yeah, title, Meridian Green Start Association, about Meridian Green Start. And we had talked about that before, not only to make it ADA compliant, but you want to make sure that when someone does a search for you, for example, in Google, that your website comes up near the top of the list. So don't start the page with the title of the page with about or portfolio or anything like that. Make sure that you have the name of your website first. That's a good one, or your name, and then the what it is, the about page or your portfolio page or whatever. So that is where we shall begin with the start with the title of the page. After that, which is, as I mentioned, is separate from the file name. After that, especially for images, you need to have what are called alt tags. And how you add alt tags is quite simple, but it does take a bit of extra work. And it's usually added to images, okay? Because someone who is seeing impaired will not be able to see those images. But if you have an alt tag, the reader that reads the page to them will give them a pretty good idea of what they can't see. So for example, if I click on the image here, it says when shopping for groceries, buy fruits and vegetables at farmers markets to support local agriculture. And I just put down here for the alt tag, support your local markets. If we look down here for the bicycle one, they wrote this one here, bike to work to save gas. And then here, for the sprinkler head, they have check watering restrictions in your area. So while the viewer cannot see the images, the reader that reads the page to them will let them know based on the correct syntax and of the document what is missing there. Okay, and that comes in the form of an alt tag. Now, in addition to that, so we have the title, the page, the title of the page, we have alt tags. Make sure that your page, we've talked about this throughout the semester, is in its proper form, that you have, the most important items of your text with H1 tags, and then you work your way down to paragraph tags, because the reader that will read the page to the viewer will see those in read them back to the person and emphasize them slightly differently depending on which H1 or paragraph tag is listed to them. So that's we have there. Now, in addition to that, I've made some other sources available to you. So if we go to here, and let's go to my website. Okay, so I have under web tools here, one of the things, there are several things that you can do. One is that if you want to check to see the images that you use and to make sure that they are, how do they look to people with various kinds of color blindness? So what we can do is we have this here, which is Blender. If I click there, it takes us to their website, and you can see that we have here a new release of Color Blindness Simulator. Well, if I click on that, and then I click again, okay, now we have here, they have a sample image for us. And if you want to see how this colorful pieces of chalk, this image of look to different people with various forms of color blindness, you can click each of these little dots here. So we have red weak, we have green weak, we have blue weak, red blind, and we have green blind and blue. And then we have, if you want to see what it looks like, and monochrome or blue cone monochromacy. There we go. Now, if you want to bring your own image in, it's quite simple to see what that looks like. So I have a sample image here that I'm just going to click and drag in here. Okay. And so I have an image that I've taken here. And again, let's view it with normal. And then if we do it with red weak, green weak, and see if there's any changes. And there are significant changes. I like photographing sunsets. Okay. And there are some serious changes that are going on here. So you might want to pick a different image or just be aware of it or choose to make it monochrome. Anyway, that's Blender. Check for various forms of color blindness with images that you choose for your website. It might be something that you at least do a little bit later. You don't have to do that from the start. With the early on in the development of your website, but maybe a little bit later you'll pay more attention to that, unless it is just an essential image that you need to use. So there isn't anything that you can do about it. So there's another thing that you can use. We can check for color blindness. The next one that we can do is to make sure that there's adequate contrast especially between the text and the background. And where you can check for that is to go to this link right here that I have on my website called Juicy Studio. And when you go here, the default settings are for background color is white. And then we have the foreground color, which would be for the text, and hashtag 000 is white. Well, let's go ahead and it gives us a rating, and you can't have more contrast than black and white. But if I were to put in another one in here, maybe one that we use for our website, how about 090? Okay, and let's go ahead and tap that, and let's calculate the luminosity. Okay, and it will give us a rating here. Contrast ratio is 3.78 to 1. That's not bad. So it passed at AA level. Let me go back and put in 000 again, see what we have. And let's go ahead and calculate the luminosity again. And that's the best rating that you can get. AAA, which is 21 to 1, that ratio. So This one I would probably find more important than Cola Blender, because oftentimes there isn't much that you can do about the image that you're using. But again, let's try another one that we used in our tutorials. And this one, 060, this was, I believe, a darker green or blue. This comes out a triple rating as well, a triple A level rating. But if it doesn't, if you don't have enough contrast, it will let you know. And they'll say that it passed or it failed, and then it would be strongly recommended that you change to something else. So that's another source that you have here. Okay, that's Juicy Studio. So let's go back again. The one that I think is most powerful these days is it's called UserWay, and I'm going to go there. And if you are working for a large company and they have a few dollars, then what I would suggest that they use is UserWay. It's not cheap. It's about $50 a month, but you can see that eBay, Coca-Cola, Disney, UNICEF, Walmart all use it. And what they will provide for you for free, which is what I have started using on my website, is a piece of code that you can put at the bottom of your page of each of the body tags. And you'll see the little blue icon in the upper right-hand corner here. And when I click on that, a little accessibility menu pops out. And if you want to add contrast, you can to make it work. Here's a different form of contrast. And here's another one. Okay, so they can see the links if the links were not that visible before, or you can turn them off. You can highlight links, which are important to everybody. So again, if the links on my page are too subtle, then that can be they can be accentuated. And while your page doesn't look pretty, it doesn't look very inspiring, it will communicate to the viewer what they need to know. Again, there's a few other things here. We can go for bigger text if you want. You can go through all these settings, and you can also reset. You can pause animations if they're there. You can change cursors. You can adjust line height for them. You can change the text align. And that's it. We have text spacing, so it's spaced out a little bit more. Let's go ahead and reset everything so it goes back to normal. Now, if you guys are interested in this, you can go to my website. You don't have to go to UserWay, but to find that code, let me show you how you can do that. UserWay is the best place for that, but I'm going to go under Tools, and I'm going to go to Browser Tools, and I'm going to look at Page Source. So this gives me the page source of of all of my pages. And if you scroll down to the bottom here, and it will take you a while. Okie doke. It's this last piece of script before the closing tag of the body tag. So it's this script right here. It's this function. If I highlight all of this here, just copy that and put that at the bottom of your page, and it will allow you to have this little bug here so that people, if they do go to your website and for any reason, maybe the links that I have here are not enough, there isn't enough contrast, or they don't see them easily, or maybe the type that I've chosen is a little bit too small, then they have the tools at their disposal to make the necessary changes so they can see your website clearly. Okay, so that is UserWay. So we have up here, and that would be how you would find the code for that. So that's it. Short lecture today. Let me see if there's a little bit more that I can give you However, yeah, on making sure that your website is ADA compliant, the American Disabilities Act. I repeat that is the law. That all websites are required to be ADA compliant. And you can go to the various places. You can go to the W3C and they can do a page check. Let's try that to make sure that your website, to see how it stacks up in compliancy. So I'm going to put ADA compliant check. Let's see what pops up. I've looked for this before. Yeah, here's a manual test. We have compliant unlock web accessibility. I want to make sure, here, let me go back. Because I want this to be, about standards, participate, membership. Here we go. Web assembly, no. Let's put web accessibility. And see what pops up. So I'm going to try this and the first one and see what happens here. So there are various services. I would use the one that is that you find for free on W3C website. And what it will do is you can put in, I don't want to quote, I don't want to, pay for any of this right now, but I want to get a basic feel for how accessible my website is. And let me go back here. Let's go back. I don't want that. Let me go back to the W3C. Let me pause for a minute and see if I can't find that. So I've gone to the W3C website, which is a website that is for web standards. And the best place to go up here in the upper left-hand corner to check for accessibility is to click right there where it says accessibility. And then we can come down here and you can say making the web accessible. That there are a variety of things that we can do to check for that. They give you test and evaluate, design and develop. They have a whole bunch of features in here, and probably more than information that you want to be able to check and to factor in what you need to do to make sure your website accessible. So it says get resources for over to the right. I'm going to click here on designers. Okay. So if you want here, for example, to get started, tips for getting started, started designing for web accessibility. If I click there, it will give you information, some of what we've already talked about. Page contents, provide sufficient contrast between foreground and background. Don't use color alone to convey information. Ensure that interactive elements are easy to identify, on and on and on. And they give you the contrast minimum at the bottom, and so on and so forth. And here's the other one that I had for color blindness. Easy check, how to check for contrast ratios. We already, I showed you that website. But they also have some tools as well here. The one that I wanted to see, and I have yet to find it again, because it is buried in here, is that to be able to check your page, and it will give you a rating, is to how it meets the standards of the W3C and the ADA Accessibilities Act. Anyway, whether it's 100% compliant or 50%, or it needs to be above 90 for it to work. And you can also do searches for that for compliant checks, but we'll forego that for right now. I just want to make sure that you have access to all of those. So let me go back to my page. That's pretty much it for what I wanted to cover today. I'll have this up on line soon. As I said, it's easy to kind of to overlook this and not factor it in seriously. But if you use, the coal blender for color blindness, if you use Juicy Studio for the contrast, and then if you take that bit of code that I showed you at the bottom of my page, either go to UserWay and get that free code, or go to the bottom of my page and paste that at the bottom of the, just before the end of the closing tag, body tag of your page. It will give you this little widget here that can check, make sure that the end user can make sure that there's adequate contrast. Okay, they can see the links properly, and don't forget to make sure that you put in alt tags for all of your images. And if you want to find out more information about ADA, or making sure that your website is accessible, go to the W3C and click on accessibility, and there are just tons and tons of stuff to read. Okie doke. So that's all I have for you today. I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to stop the recording, and I'm going to check out. Okay. Bye-bye. See everybody Thursday.